not on yet, but I just want to see if I got a sound check. Sound check. Looks like sound is working there. All right. It's a little spotty, maybe. Look like I'm dropping frames. Maybe I am dropping frames. All right. Anybody on? Give me a sound check. Myself. All right. I got a sound check. I'll be back. I can hear myself. All right, let me just do a quick check before I do my little shindig. My little da 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 da. Hello, Nate Baumberger, blah, blah, blah. All right, it doesn't look terrible. Looks like it's a little bit blah, blah, blah. All right, anyway, listen. Welcome to Nightcap. I know I have zero point 0.5 people listening live right now, so that's exciting. That's what my average listener is as I'm live. It's a little bit daunting, but again, if you've been here before, you know I don't give a shit about the viewers, for live viewers. Welcome, 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 welcome. So, you know the deal. This is Nate. This is Nightcap. This is where I yell and scream about shit that pisses me off. And tonight we're going to talk about, I mean, what else can we talk about but the fucking war that's going on in Europe, because that's what the press is covering. That's what's on everyone's mind. Again, since it's an issue that deals with something, people find a reason to, be polarized by it. And so you've got fucking people in the Republican Party that decided that Putin's like the good guy and that we should, he's strong. And so you have people like Mike Pompeo, who was the Secretary of State and also CIA director for a little bit, just kind of moving around. I guess once you're at that level, you can just do whatever. But he was out there. This was the guy that was in charge of our State Department as well as the CIA for a little bit. And he's talking about how Putin's a strong guy. He's shrewd. And, so you've already got the polarization happening, people falling into their fucking tribes. Democrats, peace and love, which is fair. I'm an anti-war guy. My grandpa was a conscientious objector, so I hold that pacifism that comes through in my ancestry, my adopted ancestry. It's still mine. I hold that in high esteem. I really do, because I think it's fucking badass that he went away for 2 years and did his service. Despite the fact that he was a conscientious objector. So I tend to be a pacifist as well. I'm not afraid of a fight, but I'm certainly not into killing people. If you watched the show before, you know that my philosophy of life is that this is it. There's no fucking afterlife. You can do what you want with your own truth. And so for me, it's twice as important. Hopefully I'm not getting an echo. Somebody's texting me, so that usually means there's fucking some problem. Anyway, so tonight I'm going to go through my points and I'm going to talk about the news. I'm going to talk about the media, what they're talking about, and then I'm going to kind of walk right into the war machine, which is, kind of fueled by the media and our fucking love of just war in general. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right. I've definitely tried a new mic today. You know how I roll, man. I always try new shit. Let me just do something real quick. Change the level. I'm scared you guys are going to be able to hear me. Anyway, so, I'm going to talk about the media. I'm going to talk about the war machine. And then I'm also going to I hear an echo myself. What the fuck is that echo? And then I'm going to talk about kind of something that the media is not talking about. I mean, some people are talking about it, but I'm just going to talk about it. And I'm going to give my experience and my self-expression of my interpretation of kind of the events and how I see it. So first off, the media is talking about the war. I mean, that's the war in Ukraine. Putin decided to go over, across the border. He already, Trump basically gave him Crimea. Was it Obama? One of them, kind of just let him walk into Crimea. I don't look. And by the way, if you come here for foreign policy, fucking education, go somewhere else. This is where I talk mostly about domestic issues. I'm not a foreign policy expert, and neither are you, but certainly I do have opinions. What the fuck is that echo coming from? It's been one of those days. But I want to just talk about, kind of my take on this foreign policy, because I'm an American just like you. But despite what some people say, and that maybe I'm not a real American, all that shit. I hear that all the time because I guess I'm a Democrat currently, And I'm African American. Of course, the African American folks, kind of look at me and say, "Well, you're not. You're white." So do the white people. You're white just because of the way I talk. So, I've got all kinds of fucking experience I can talk about, but I still deal with the negative side. Of course, there's the positive stereotypes of black people, which we love. But there's the negative side of it too, which I'm going to get into that. And that's how I'm going to end this with the last points. The news, the war machine, and how it's fueled. And then I'm going to talk about something that no one's really talking about and give my perspective. So, it's just like anytime there is a fucking war in Europe or anywhere, some big move when some dictator or some asshole decides that they aren't happy with their whatever the fuck their country has, or they want to, disenfranchise people, or, some religious bullshit that they fucking believe in, like there's some fucking, reason for the war, the religious wars. There's always a reason. There's always some fucking reason. And what's weird about the media is that they will do whatever it takes to kind of grease our wheels so that we get excited about, so we tune in. That's why the first day that Putin announced to go cross over into the border, I was like, fuck this. I'm not watching this shit. I'm not watching the fucking news. I'm not watching the news as they try to get me excited or fearful about what's going on. I mean, I didn't know it was going on before. It's not to say that it's not important. I know it's important, and I know there are effects of how it's going to affect NATO and how it's going to affect Europe. If Putin's able to get Ukraine, that's essentially like kind of a wall between him and the rest of Europe. Even the president of Ukraine right now is asking for immediate access to the EU because he wants to be able to call on his allies in the Union and help him fight. So, this is all stuff that I'm getting in the news, just like you. And I'm fucking amazed at how everybody knows so fucking much about this issue already. Again, I kind of spend all day reading and looking at shit and learning stuff. And like I said, I focus on domestic policy because I feel like this country could be perfected. I think it could be better. I don't think it was ever great again. I think it can be better. When people talk about great again, they're talking about a time when it wasn't great for a lot of people. They want to go back to the 50s and all this bullshit. So the fucking MAGA shit just can go to fucking hell. It doesn't even make sense. Make America great again, as if we fell off some wagon of greatness. We've just kind of been coasting we've been a superpower for a while. So I just, whatever. Staying focused on my points, the news is doing its thing, and they're generating fear. Is that my TV? Hold on. It is. That's my TV. That's where I'm hitting the echo. You know what? I know why, because I was recording video this weekend. So they're doing their thing, and they expect us to watch. They expect us to tune in, and of course, a lot of you folks are going to become foreign policy experts, and you're going to side, and you're going to make cute memes about how, Biden is losing the war. I saw this fucking meme. Again, Republicans are the meme kings. They're better at memeing than the Democrats. And conservatives just love memes, because I actually was talking to a person who's a conservative. He said, I love memes, man. It says everything. It's just how you communicate. It's like, a picture, basically, when it is able to create an emotion and capture their idea, they love that shit. And so you got the memes right now floating around with the picture of the silhouette of Donald Trump as if he's the bat signal. And you got people saying, look at, the whole world is just waiting for Trump again. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking? What world do you live in? Where the fuck do you live where everyone's excited about Donald Trump, except for his sycophantic base? Again, emperor with no clothes. You've heard me say the fucking metaphor of the balls slapping in their face. They love that shit. They'll even stick their head up his ass to eat his poop, apparently. They love his shit. He put out a fucking platform, and they're talking. I see people on Instagram. I'm friends with a lot of conservatives, and I'm sorry if you're a conservative, if you're a conservative and you're a Trumper, I just don't have any respect for you. If you're a conservative and you're fucking going and visiting Dr. Oz and fucking thinking he's the next senator that you want to see, again, I just don't think you're qualified or have any. You're just a tribal person. You are the sheep that everybody talks about that just goes along with the party. And so, the media takes advantage of that. And so right now they've got people polarized again. For some reason, the leaders of the GOP have splintered on their support of Putin, which is fucking crazy. It's crazy to say that there's people in our country that are supporting a fucking autocrat that's walking into an authoritarian that's walking into another country, a sovereign country, like as if it's like a good thing, and they're like looking at it respect. Even Trump said, it's a shrewd move, it's a smart move. He's a genius because he's getting all that land, all that beautiful land for $2 worth of sanctions. And so again, in one fell swoop, he's saying how he admires Putin, and he's also suggesting that the sanctions aren't enough to stop him. And that may be the case. Again, I don't know. But this is what we're talking about. And the media has us talking about it. And of course, they show the pictures of war. We're all familiar with the fuck you sailor that apparently was supposed to be shot right after he told the Russians to fuck off. And we love that shit. And we see their celebrity folks over in Ukraine fighting, which is amazing. I'm also, in admiration. I don't think we would see our celebrities dunning the fucking, putting on maybe back in the day, maybe back when America was great, but you're not going to see celebrities, go to war. They're not even going to send their kids. In America, there's the poor people fight the wars, and we know that, the poor and the middle class. And maybe if you're, maybe a McCain, then maybe you're an officer and you get kind of, pushed through the system at a high level, but you're making the calls. You're not going to war. So most of the time, it's folks that are middle class to poor people that are fighting the wars. And you can argue that point on your own fucking time, but it's a fact that there's ways to get out of the war or the draft if you're rich. I mean, Donald Trump's a perfect example. He had bone spurs, apparently, that prevented him from getting drafted. So rich people find creative ways to do their thing, even, lie, cheat, whatever, to avoid that. So we're fighting the wars, and they're getting us excited. People are already talking about getting drafted. That's not a war, by the way. We're not in the war, but we are the ones that are going to go. And if once the media goes full circle and completes their transformation of the American mind to suggest that we need to be a part of that, because if Ukraine starts losing in any capacity, you're going to see that. So, I was playing Magic. I play Magic the Gathering with my buddy on the weekends, and we were talking about it. He's kind of whatever about politics, but he makes smart comments sometimes and other times stupid ones. But, I made the comment like, oh, we're going to war. He's like, what war? We're not in a war. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Not yet. But you can see the drumbeat. You can see the sympathy and the sympathy that's being played. I'm going to walk right into my second point. The sympathy card that's being played right now for the war is intense. You have to be kind of a stone cold hearted bastard to not feel some sentiment when they put a pretty blue-eyed little boy on camera while he's crying, while his dad is left behind in Ukraine to fight the war as a hero. And so, of course, now Zelensky, the president, he's also kind of like, I saw a meme that said, your girlfriend's in love, your girlfriend or your partner is in love with this guy, and you can't help it because of all that machismo. Seeing him walk around, I guess apparently it gets chicks wet, seeing a guy walk around with the fucking vest on, whatever. Again, I don't know, but apparently this is like the American thing where we're like, oh, yeah, we're finding our heroes, and we're finding out, kind of which side of the aisle you're on by how kind of fierce you are. I did see collectively on both sides on my feed and my timeline, my social media, I saw both Democrats and Republicans kind of, holding these folks in high esteem, these celebrities that put on the army outfit and went to war. And of course that's noble. But again, it's like, all right, so it's like this is the only conflict that's happening. And it's just frustrating to see how the machinations of the media are going to get us wrapped around this to the point it's all we're talking about, and any kind of different viewpoint is going to be shut down. And Republicans have a point on this. You know, it's certainly okay to talk about whether or not Putin's justified in doing what he wants, but we know the history of Putin. We know he's a murderer. We know he kills people. We know he imprisons his political foes. We know he poisons his political foes. We know he shuts down any kind of adversarial opposition to him in protest, even in peaceful protests. He's been known to kill and lock up his opponents. And so for that reason alone, I would argue that there's nothing really you're going to say to me that's going to convince me that Putin's doing the right thing. But, you know, you can have those arguments. I'm pro having those arguments. It just needs to be shut down really quickly. We need to kind of coalesce around what the American ideals are, which is not to kill journalists, apparently. Apparently will allow it to happen in the case of the Saudi Arabian journalist who was bone sawed in the fucking Saudi embassy. But that's a tale for another day. So the media's drumming the fucking drum of sympathy. You know, we're already getting it. We're seeing everybody putting the flag in their fucking feed and saying, "I stand with Ukraine." And they don't know shit about fucking Ukraine. They want a couple articles. And again, I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be defending Ukraine. It's just odd to me how all of a sudden everybody is kind of on the same page, either against, you know, pro-Putin or on this defend Ukraine, which is probably the right way to go because it's a sovereign nation. And, you know, you see this machine kind of generating all this heat. And I just kind of did some searches, and I wondered if this was the only conflict that we're in. No, it isn't. But it really does make a difference when you're flashing white folks that are being evicted from their home on TV to the American public for whatever reason. Maybe because we're kind of run by a kind of a white society, and we have white establishment that runs the country for the most part here. Just stop playing and don't fucking even question that fucking shit, Mike Pence, you fuck. So, you know, he wants to say that there's no systemic racism and all that shit. But we know for a fact, based on, you know, just what the reaction is to this war, you have senators and congressmen talking about giving these folks asylum right off the bat. So Ukrainian folks, you know, there's bills that are being put into Congress to give them asylum based on these news reports. And I can imagine that these folks don't have much more information than you and I, because the person that put this bill forward, I don't think sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee or any kind of foreign policy committee, but she was moved by the images that you see in the media. So today, like, I'm trying to focus on the media just because it's what's gonna get us. It's what's going to get us into this war. It's what's gonna kind of move the needle for everybody. And the images that they're displaying of white folks being displaced is moving people. You know, people are getting upset, and people are defending. You know, in most cases, at least the Americans, I would say, are defending the Ukrainians and suggesting that Putin's in the wrong. But there's this movement of sympathy. You know, it's almost like when the BLM movement was kind of going through, and all the black folks were still being killed, but you know, there was a couple big killings, big public executions of African Americans on TV. And, you know, everybody put the little black in their social media to indicate that they cared. And that was their movement of activism. And, you know, you can go through somebody. If I meet a new person, sometimes I'll scroll through to see what the fuck they're about. And I'll see, oh, yeah, look at them. They got the black thing. I guess they'll be my friend. And sure, I'll friend them because they're an ally, right? So it's just this thing that we do that kind of, we're automatically kind of putting ourselves into a slot of how we feel about something. And so right now you have everybody just kind of coalescing around, most people coalescing around the Ukrainians. I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with are two things. Number one, I'm really concerned with the sympathy that's being generated, that folks are going to then instantly be ready for us to go to war, to go to bat for us. to go to bat for Ukraine. And I'm not suggesting, as a naive policy person, I'm not saying that that is the wrong thing. But it's just amazing how quickly we're kind of shifting towards another war, or at least talking about it. I mean, Switzerland's taken action and Europe's taken action, which Europe should take action, right? That it's on their land, and maybe we should. I don't know, but it's going to happen. My prediction is that we're going to get involved somehow if we haven't already. Maybe I'm naive, and maybe we already have. I'm sure secretly we already have. But I do believe that the drum is beating hard for us to engage in this war. It's on everyone's mind, and so now we don't want to lose. Americans don't like to lose. We just kind of pull out after 20 years of $1.4 trillion. We call it a win, I guess, or whatever. But right now, the media is telling us, hey, look, you need to be sympathetic to these folks, and there's white people that are dying over there. The reason I said white people is because what's fucked up is there are a lot of Nigerians. I happen to be half Nigerian. Again, I don't know shit about Nigeria, except I know that the Yoruba tribe were actually slave traders back in the day. But I know, and that's my tribe, so, food for thought. But I think what's interesting about it is there's a lot of Nigerian immigrants that go to Ukraine to study engineering. They have some pretty good engineering schools there, and I will say, having worked with a lot of Ukrainians, they're typically very good programmers, and they're very hard workers. And I enjoyed working with the Ukrainians I worked with. They were great. I worked with Ukrainians on several projects, and so it's well known that Poland, Ukraine, even Russia, they have some of the best hackers in the world. Romania as well. So these folks can sit around, be in their computer, and that's all they do. And there's clubs, and they're kind of in that ecosystem where if you're a nerd, that's the thing to do. And so I know a lot of fucking hackers. I know a lot of programmers. I know a lot of system architects and so forth that are from Ukraine. And so these Africans are going there to get their education. And of course, they're now in Ukraine, and they're left high and dry. Even when they're trying to cross the border into Poland, Poland's saying, hey, we got to let the Ukrainians in first. And so black people are getting misplaced. What does that mean? Nate, you said you were going to talk about the media. Well, I know there are reports of this, and I know there are things going around social media, but it's not getting the same kind of sympathy play. It's not getting the same kind of coverage that the fucking little blue-eyed boy that's looking into the camera that's talking about his dad. Meanwhile, the fucking family of 4 with 2 babies that are fucking sitting there in the cold waiting to cross the border, nothing's really said. There was no interview. It was just a picture of them. It was a video. It was a handheld video. There's no media press talking. I didn't see any reporters that are talking to these folks. And so that's not being front. You never see that on Fox News about how the Africans are actually being prevented from entering Poland. You're not going to see that. You might see it on MSNBC. You might see a couple articles, but most of the time you're seeing that stuff on social media. And so you can question the veracity of it, but it is what it is. And in fact, the Nigerian government recently just issued a statement kind of condemning the whole action of Poland and how they're treating these refugees with a statement. So it's happening to the point where the Nigerian government's actually stepped up and said, you know what the fuck is going on? You know what the fuck's going on. It's not just the United States, okay? It's not just the United States that has this viewpoint. There is this kind of intangible belief, and I say intangible because it's like you can't really put a finger on it, but it's like there are, Oprah goes to fucking Switzerland. Was it Switzerland? And she's in a high-end store, and she's kicked out because she's African American. When I think about going to countries, folks are just like, hey, you should go to Prague, you should go here, you should go there. I have to check to see what the fucking racist level is of these countries. This is just what I do. I know I can pretty much go anywhere down in Central America, especially because I'm a lighter skin. Of course, Central and South America have their own variations of racism. The hell? Why am I dropping frames? Let me just stop this. Hold on a second. I'm dropping frames. I don't like that. Maybe that'll help. Um, so you have this drumbeat of saying we need to go to war, or that the war's happening, and white people are getting killed, and it's awful. It's awful. And I'm using these racial terms on purpose because, again, you think I like talking about this? You think I like playing this fucking this kind of victimization that I'm going to get accused of by discussing the fact that the world in general has this malaise or this negative effect or negative belief that black people are inferior or people of color are inferior? I'm not bullshitting you. Every person of color fucking knows it. And, I don't, you have the Candace Owens that'll say, it's just about merit. It's just about, come on, Candace. She's a fucking idiot. I mean, look at her. She's not fucking intelligent. I'm not saying look at her. She's fine to look at, but she's an idiot. She's a fucking moron. She says the dumbest things. There's no logic. She made statements in support of Hitler as if Hitler did some smart things. And then, of course, you have Ben Shapiro, who's the wizard wordsmith, Sarah Palin, word salad guy, saying the same shit, that black people it's just a merit-based and we need to just ignore race. And in fact, Rick Scott came out with a platform that says we need to ignore race. And so it's very easy to say that when you're on that side and you're not one of the folks that are being disenfranchised, or you have a lot of money and you're a fucking idiot, or you just don't understand the history of our country, or you just can't see fucking two feet in front of you. But if you have eyes and you have ears and you have a brain that can do critical analysis, which is not very many people apparently in this country based on our election of Donald Trump, you'll see that there are systems in place and there are things in place in this country and all over the world that make it difficult for African Americans, or people of color. And during this crisis right now in Ukraine, they're making it so that the white people, white Ukrainians, get into Poland first. They're literally telling to go back to the end of the line, fucking people waiting 7, 8 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, while white Ukrainians go past them. What the fuck is that? That's not coming from America, right? That's not America's systemic racism. That's just straight up global. And so if you're a person of color and you think that you can travel anywhere in the world without being fucking, you should be aware that there are some countries where you're not going to be welcome. Poland, Ukraine, Russia, you're still going to be ostracized. There's a lot of folks. I mean, even places in, what I call modern Europe, England. There's places where, England's probably one of the least racist, I would say, based on just what my understanding, and they have a lot of interracial relationships going on. They've had it for a while, but there's still kind of bullshit going on over there, and they still have things that will kind of create these ghettos for low class and African American or Africans over there. So it's almost like everywhere you go. And so, my tone tonight is kind of just of exasperation. I wasn't excited about getting on because I know how this is. I know how this looks for folks. And I know, then my African American brothers and sisters in this country, sometimes deem me not black enough to even talk about this kind of shit. But I can tell you, as somebody who maybe I talk like this, I've had guns pulled on me. I've had fucking my own car. I was accused of stealing my own car before in this fucking Lancaster. When I worked for the Obama campaign, I was pulled out of the passenger seat and frisked while the driver from Alabama was incredulous that this was happening. And then I went to talk about it the next day. There was no report. So it just happened in my mind. Only me and this other person, Trey, witnessed it. And so it just didn't exist. It's just another story that I can tell my viewers. But, when you watch this play out and you see this happen, it's like, of course they're going to do that over there. Of course they're going to make it harder for the people of color. Because this threat of white supremacy doesn't just exist over here. It's kind of global. And, I hate to say that. And if you're white and you're watching this and you're getting offended, get the fuck over yourself. Seriously, get the fuck over yourself. Can you imagine? I guarantee none of you would trade places with me, and I'm fucking a privileged black person. You wouldn't want to fuck. I mean, I'm fucking strikingly good looking. That's about it. That's my only fucking bonus. And I joke, but the truth is, like, it's not something that a lot of folks would, if you had the what Freaky Friday, it's not like, oh yeah, let's pick a black dude. There's a movie I think in the 80s called Black Like Me, where the gentleman, he goes through and he tries to acquire scholarships. He gets some chemical done to his skin, and then the whole movie talks about how he kind of discovers this whole new world of racism and bullshit. And so it's obvious to me that nobody would trade places with a black person or a person of color if you're white. I mean, there'd just be no other reason other than the fantastic stereotype of big dicks. Which, again, I'm sorry, that's your fault. You guys made it, but I'll take that one. And I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to be funny, but I'm also being serious. And it's kind of it's just a sad state of affairs when you look at what's happening to the Palestinians. You look at what's happening to the Muslims in China. You look at the whole Middle East quagmire and every war that we saw in Central America and every war we see in South America. You have folks writing articles suggesting, hey, look at this war. This is one of the articles I read today, suggesting that, hey, these people watch Netflix. They're just like us. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So when folks down in Central America or Nicaragua or wherever the fuck crazy shit we got going on are getting killed, those weren't people like us. They were somebody else. They were others. But now it's people like us. You hear this kind of thread going on that's people like us. It's so fucking obvious to me. I don't understand why someone would even come to the fucking table with an argument that white supremacy is kind of a global problem. I don't understand how you could come to that conclusion, but here's a perfect example of a war that we're supporting. We're supporting the good guys, and the good guys are still fucking over the black people. So, maybe they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, right? Maybe they're not working hard enough. Maybe they just came from Africa to Ukraine to fucking dick around, and maybe they don't deserve fucking priority or whatever. I don't know what the argument is, but it's fucking just embarrassingly stupid, and it pisses me off, especially with the amount of wars that we've had between brown people that just don't get this kind of coverage or sympathy. I don't remember seeing or hearing a translation of a little Latino or Latina boy or girl, looking to the camera, being translated about how my dad's traveling, walking 200 miles to get across the border because we were persecuted and we, have warlords in our fucking backyard or whatever. You don't see those stories, but I saw 5, 6 stories of little kids talking about their daddies being heroes and so forth, and fantastic. And those children have my beef isn't with those children. My beef is with this lack of acknowledgement